people a little time to welcome back in here. Helpful if anybody needs it. Are we ready?
Can rescind it.
Okay. Are we good? Okay. I'll call the meeting to order again. Thank you for your patience. I meant to hand these out earlier. We are back to the approval of board committee assignments for 2023.
Director Crosby, I move to rescind my previous motion.
Thank you. Okay. So we'll go forward, and so board members will be assigned membership on board committees, and a copy of this has been shared with everyone. Per policy, the board chair assigns committees. We used a process this time based on preferences, which is what we try to do, as well as looking at talents and time and skill set and tenure on the board. We really tried to adhere to preferences, and I think it shook out actually quite well based on how people wished to be involved. So with that, I would be looking for a motion to approve all board committee assignments for 2023.
So moved.
Jessica, seconded by Julie. This is not a.
Director Crosby, I'd like to make a motion to add a discussion about the district-wide committees to our upcoming school board meeting, or the study session on January 23rd, to review our district-wide committees and have a conversation about the committees and how they're being used to support our district work.
I think it's, go ahead, Enrique.
Yeah, there's already a motion.
Just to open it up to,
There's already a motion, so I don't know that we could pick up a second motion while there's already a motion in place. From a procedural perspective.
I think it
But-
had to come before the
On that first motion.
first motion, but. We had already had that first motion in place, first and seconded. It had not passed, so we were up for discussion, so we would have to
Right.
rescind that now.
Right? Or we could just have the discussion.
We-
'cause this would
We
be
can
the
just
appropriate
have
time
the
for discussion.
discussion
Yep,
without a
discussion.
motion, if that suffices. That's, yeah. So is there feedback or more input from the board about Lisa's suggestion?
So just to provide discussion on this matter, just hearing from the community, I believe that there is a need for several different committees to support the work that we are doing. And looking at other districts, some of the committees that other districts have in place they have a mental health advisory committee, which I think would be very prudent for us at this time to have something like that to support all schools within the district. And another suggestion for a committee could potentially be a communications/marketing committee, which would support our communications department. So those are the two that come to top of mind, and then also a safety committee. So I know we used to have crisis response team committee, and we don't have that in place anymore. And so those are the three committees that I feel that we don't currently have listed within our district that I would like to have more discussion on at this study session in January.
Any thoughts from the rest of the board?
I would agree 100% with what those suggestions are. Also, in past Prior Lake Savage area schools had board directors assigned to some of the schools, to the schools. And I think if that is something that we could look at, just having being available to our schools as directors, I would like to be able to discuss that further as well.
Any other input?
So first of all, we do have a policy that already discusses committees. And if we want to bring that policy back up for discussion, then I think that would be the appropriate venue, because the policy kind of covers all committees and the purposes of them, so that we can all reacquaint ourselves with what each committee is supposed to do. And the other thing is some of the discussion here may actually, and I'm just making a suggestion, may actually be better served in a board retreat and actually focus on that, and then bring an overall change or discussion back to the whole board in a regular meeting, because the retreats are much longer. They're not often inhibited by agenda items that have to be covered. So that's just another suggestion. I want to remind everybody that we did rework the committees quite a bit, and with the primary goal of not only making them more comprehensive in of themselves, and that will take place, I believe, that policy committee to review it, and some of them will take place when we do our new fiscal year in July, but also to better engage the community and get that going. So if we're going to make changes like this, then I think I think it will require a greater discussion and a little bit more dedicated discussion.
If I may, Chair Crosby, I would echo Vice President France in that I think the conversation, I think you bring up great points, Director Atkinson, in terms of focus with the needs that we know that are existing in our community, quite frankly, K-12 all over this country right now. And I think in a retreat format, that would also allow some staff to engage and participate as well from some of these areas. That way we can get some content expertise in the conversation. And if this is the will of the board to expand, committees or to have, other structures, then at least you have the information to be able to make that decision. But I think there's merit to that. And I think that structure would be most appropriate.
So moving forward, I think go ahead.
Enrique, did you have something to say?
I agree. I fully agree with taking a more prolonged discussion and a longer range view of the committee assignments, what's the focus, who should be involved, and also taking a look at what are best practices. Director Atkinson brings up a good point that other districts have some of these different committees in place. It would be worthwhile to dig into those and see how do they work, what's the structure of them, so that we can speak more intelligently on them and make more of an informed decision as we lead into policy discussions.
Thanks. So I think kind of in summary, today we have to vote on our committee assignments for the year as they stand, as we know them now. We have a motion and a second, and we'll take a vote in a minute. But to Director Atkinson's point, we can further study other opportunities for committee needs, and perhaps a board study session or a retreat would be preferable for that, just to recap. So, all in favor of today's board committee assignments for 2023?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 7-0. That takes us to our discussion of meeting and procedural format. We don't have any votes on this. It's more about understanding expectations for the year. Our dates have been set, and you can read in the board packet all the details about that. We have, one thing that's not captured in the board packet that we have talked about and continue to explore is setting our venue for study sessions to make them less formal and a little more interactive conversations. So that's definitely on the horizon, just not here quite yet. And then, does anyone have anything to add there? I don't want to move on without giving people a chance.
For those of you, I know we had COVID for a long time, and we did move the study session to this venue up here, which is very formal. Prior to COVID, we actually would meet in a more informal session at the back of this room, and we would also record the meetings instead of also project those meetings on video as well as recording. So I don't know if we want to take a discussion item on the next study session to actually talk about that so we can vote on a change, or if the change is even required for a vote. I think we need to ask Martha that.
Yeah.
But I do think it would be worthwhile to discuss it and make sure from the technology standpoint that we can still show the video of it, because I think people have become very accustomed and like watching the video instead of trying to listen to just the recording on our website.
Great. In-service discussion, we have board development that's ongoing from last year that we will finish out our contract next study session, January 23rd at 4:30 before our 6 p.m. study session, and then we have our June board retreat. So with that, I'll need a motion to adjourn.
So made.
By Julie, second.
Second.
Enrique, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 7-0. We'll take a short break and then come back for our board meeting.